Well, hi everybody.
Hi everyone.
Welcome to Two Realtors and a Couch. Again.
Maybe they didn't watch our other video.
They didn't watch our other
Go
video.
back and watch our first video.
That's right. So today, this is something I think you're really going to want to hear. It's how to increase your chances in buying the house that you want in a competitive market.
Because we are in a competitive market right now.
Definitely in a competitive market.
Mm-hmm.
So what are the things a buyer can do? Now, the first thing that you have to realize is there's 4 things in an offer that a seller and a buyer need to agree upon.
We'll go put a finger down.
Right? First, obviously, the price. Got to agree on the price. Second, the closing date. When does it close? And obviously, it's got to close on a business date and not on a weekend or holiday, because the lawyers have decided not to work on weekends, holidays, or days that are...
Yes. And we always try to pick not the last day of the month if possible, and not a Friday. Because if there are things that need to get taken care of, we want to try and do it before the weekend when the realtors or the lawyers aren't at work.
Correct.
Third.
Next thing would be what's included and excluded. And we'll do a video on chattels and fixtures that you're going to want to know. And the last thing is what are the conditions, if any?
Which is a big one right now.
Which is a big one right now. So 4 things: price, closing date, inclusions, exclusions, and your conditions. Now this is what a seller's going to compare your offer to other offers. Now let's talk about the price.
It's a big one.
Very, very difficult to ascertain what a house is going to sell for when you have more than one offer on it. So what your realtor can do is pull up comparables in the area. What's the average sale price in the area to determine, based on the work required and based on, what are houses in that neighborhood selling for that are all done up.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're buying a house, it's a minimum 5 to 10 year commitment. And the reason...
Like a marriage.
Like a marriage, right?
If not more.
Hopefully longer. For financial reasons. But we won't go there. And the reason being is you typically will have a mortgage for a 5-year term. And if you're selling before that, there's a good chance that you're paying a penalty. Mm-hmm. If you're selling before that 5 years, there's a good chance that if the market shifted, that you could be losing money. So the reason why it's a 5 to 10 year commitment is that property's got to sustain you for that 5 to 10 years. That if you're in a situation where you want to sell, that's totally different than being in a situation where you have to sell.
Exactly.
Okay. Next is closing date. Now, Natasha touched upon that a little bit briefly. We like closing on Wednesdays and Thursdays. Mm-hmm. And the reason for that is if you close on a Friday and there's ever a holdup, whether it's the transferring of funds, whether when you do a final walkthrough and the property is not in the same condition as when you've seen it, mm-hmm. if there's leftover garbage, if it was tenant occupied and the tenants aren't out, that could hold up the lawyer's end for closing that transaction. And if it does get held up, because let's face it, things are out of our control sometimes, mm-hmm. then you have the whole weekend that you have to wait. And that's difficult in order to make arrangements to move into the house and get ownership. Mm-hmm. So, but if it closes on a Thursday, and there's some type of holdup, you still have Friday to try and resolve it before the weekend. So that's something we always recommend. Next is what's included and excluded. Well, obviously, a chattel is something that's easily movable, right? Like a table, a chair, a fridge, a stove. And a fixture would be something that's fixed to the property. And the rule of thumb that we use is if I need a screwdriver to remove it, it's staying unless I'm specifying that I'm taking it.
Exactly.
Okay. And lastly, your conditions. A typical offer on a residential house in North Bay on municipal services would be typically conditional upon financing, insurance, and home inspection. Mm-hmm. Now, most realtors in this market are having properties pre-inspected. So there's a good chance that you're looking at a house that's got a pre-inspection on it. You'll have the opportunity to review that prior to putting in the offer. But this is the thing you got to remember, is if you're relying on the seller's home inspection, there is a transfer fee to transfer it into your name. Because if the home inspector, for whatever reason, missed something, right? then if it's not transferred in your name, you have no recourse.
So
Okay.
if you've looked at that pre-home inspection, you want to reach out to that home inspector. You can ask them any questions that you want to prior to putting in your offer, and ask how much it's going to be to transfer that over into your name.
And it's always something we recommend too, because reading a report and getting the insight and explanation from that home inspector on his report or her report is invaluable. For your insurance, well, call your insurance company. There's going to be a set of questions that they're going to want to know. The age of the house, the age of the shingles, which the listing realtor, or even through the inspection, you should be able to answer predominantly all of them. And that's just a phone call to your insurance company to get an insurance quote so you know the property can be insured. So if you're satisfied with what you're seeing pre-inspection wise, and you do have an insurance quote you're satisfied with, you've already eliminated two potential conditions. Now for the financing condition, this is the thing you have to make sure. When you're pre-approved for a certain amount, okay? But the reason why you still need a financing condition is the bank or lender needs to pre-approve the property. So if you're not going to put in a financing condition, you want to make sure you're having that conversation with your bank or mortgage broker and make sure that there's not going to be any issues. Better yet, you may want a short financing condition. A couple days, but make sure before you're going out to submit an offer, your banker or mortgage broker has all the documentation they need. Okay, they've checked your credit, they've confirmed your employment, they have your last 2 years notices of assessment. Okay, they know everything. Now, sometimes, here's a little tip. I'll give you a little tip. If you're competing on a property and there's more than one offer, I always recommend writing a letter to the seller.
From the heart.
From the heart. Explain to them who you are, why you want the property, okay? And you'd be surprised how many times a seller is impressed that you took the time to write that letter and tell them how much you love their property, okay? You want to use every advantage that you can. So once again, right? 4 things the seller is going to look at, and 4 things to better your offer: price, closing date, what's included and excluded, and your conditions.
Absolutely. And if you do want to go in without conditions because you feel that you've satisfied those yourself, make sure that you know the risks and you've talked to your realtor about going in with that unconditional offer. Because you don't have to, but you do need to know the risks if you do.
And if you're not familiar with the buying process, we have a one-on-one buyer presentation that we can do for you. And it doesn't cost you anything. It's designed to walk you through the entire process and familiarize yourself with what can occur. And when you're familiar with something, obviously, there's greater confidence there. So we want to make sure that if you're going out there buying, whether you're working with us or another realtor, we want to make sure that the public who's buying these houses in our area right now know and have that knowledge.
We believe that knowledge is power, and we want to be able to give that to as many people as we can because we want them to have a fantastic buying experience.
Thanks, guys. Hopefully that's helpful.
It's Natasha Laframboise, sales representative with the Laframboise team, with my husband and business partner,
Matt Laframboise, sales representative with the Laframboise team.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.